You don't need to live in Vermont, talk like a New Englander, and own 1,000 lidded buckets to make maple syrup. Hi, I'm Tim Hurd, and the author of Maple Sugar, and this is do-it-yourself backyard maple sugaring. Any native maple tree with a trunk diameter greater than 11 inches can be tapped. Trees with large crowns that extend down toward the ground tend to be better sap producers. As measured from about chest high, a tree with a diameter of over 11 inches will support 1 tap. 18 to 24 inches, 2 taps. And over 24 inches, 3 taps. While taps located on the south side of the tree may flow earlier due to the sun's warming, there's no evidence that they produce any more over the long run than taps located on any other side of the tree. Likewise, locating a tap above a large root or below a large branch doesn't have an appreciable effect on the amount of sap produced. For ease of collecting, most taps are located between 2 and 4 feet above the ground. You'll want to avoid a previous tap hole by a couple of inches just to keep wounds to a minimum. A scar forms in the bark, but if the tree is otherwise healthy, tapping does not hurt the tree. Now, this large silver maple can easily support 3 taps. If you follow the guidelines for the number of allowable taps per individual tree, no more than 10% of the tree's sap will be harvested. This is like if you donated a pint of your blood. Your body doesn't miss it and simply makes more. Some maples have been tapped upwards of 150 years and are still excellent producers. So what do we need? Well, to get started, you could spend a lot of money to purchase an elaborate system, but it can be done very simply and cheaply. It is a simple concept after all. A few supplies are all you need. A drill with a sharp and clean 5/16 inch bit, spiles or spouts for the tap holes. You can buy commercially available metal spiles with hooks or plastic spiles with a length of plastic tubing. But you can simply make it colonial style, as the old-timers did, with taking a piece of sumac and hollowing out the center soft pith and making a little wooden tube for your spile. A little wire hook can help hold that bucket in place. And of course, you're collecting containers. If you're using a metal bucket that's commercially available, it has a hole already in it to hang it on the spile. And a lid is a good thing to put on it to keep out the rain and snow and twigs and debris. But again, you can keep it simple and use your plastic buckets or gallon milk jugs as your storage vessels for the sap that you harvest. When do we start? Well, the most consistent sap flow begins when the daily temperature reaches into the 40s or low 50s in degrees Fahrenheit, while overnight lows still dip into the 20s. That's when the sap begins to rise from the roots and trunk up to the twigs to fuel the coming springtime growth spurt, which can happen anytime between February and April. Each tap on a healthy tree may produce 10 gallons of sap or more during the month-long season, with most of it coming during a 10 to 14-day run, depending on the weather. 10 gallons of sap will yield about 1 quart of syrup. The sugaring season ends when the weather no longer dips below freezing at night and the sap simply stops flowing. You'll notice that that happens at just about the same time that the buds pop open on the twigs. So let's get tapping. Identify the maples you intend to tap. Gather your tools and equipment. Determine the correct number of taps for each tree and locate the tap sites. Drill each hole about 2 to 3 inches deep, slanting slightly upward into the trunk. Clear away any sawdust. Or you can work all human-powered and use a brace and bit to cut your hole into the tree. Insert the spile and tap it to a snug fit. Don't pound it in. If you're using tubing, attach one end of the spile and the other end to your bucket or jug on a stable spot on the ground, and let the other end of the tubing run down into it. If you're not using tubing, hang your bucket on the spile, or tie it around the tree, or set it right below so the sap will drip directly into it. Empty your container at least once every day, and more often if it's warm. Keep a close watch, because on a warm day, the sap could overfill your jug and be wasted. Sap can spoil if left uncollected. If you want to save it to boil it all at once, refrigerate it. A lot of people are surprised to find that the sap doesn't come out of the tree looking a nice, warm, sticky brown. But no, it's mostly water. Sugar maple sap is only 3 to 5% sugar. And it's all that water that you've got to boil away to make the syrup. So get started already. Then join me in part 2 of this series for boiling off the raw sap and finishing it off as pure maple syrup.